Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen from the press. This press briefing is a memorandum of issues in the basic education sector. Ghana has been implementing the free compulsory universal basic education policy with the aim of ensuring all citizens of basic school-going age enroll in complete basic school with relevant learning outcomes without financial barriers. 18 years into the implementation of the F-Cube, there still exists significant access and quality deficits in the delivery of basic education, the drivers of which impact negatively on the work of teachers and learning outcomes. The deficits manifest in the following dimensions. 1, we have a high number of out-of-school children. According to the Ghana Statistical Service, 1 million children aged 4 to 18 are not in school, representing about 10% of the age cohorts. This is primarily due to the lack of public basic schools in underserved communities, even as the population increases. At least 2,000 new basic schools are required to absorb the out-of-school children into formal basic schools. However, given the current rate of constructing new schools, this may take the next 10 years to accomplish. 2, the slow growth of public basic schools. Between 2015 and 2021, public basic schools grew by 12%, with private schools growing by 68%. In the medium term, 2018 to 2021, only an average of 0.8 primary schools were constructed each year per district. The slow growth of the public schools due to the lack of adequate investment in basic school infrastructure suggests government is shifting the responsibility of providing free compulsory universal basic education to the private sector, which is beyond the financial reach of the poor. This, among others, accounts for the high number of out-of-school children. 3, lack of junior high schools in a quarter of primary schools. Ghana's basic education comprises primary and junior high schools. About 25% of primary schools across the country do not have JHS or junior high schools, a situation that seriously affects basic school completion. In the northern region, for example, close to 60% of primary schools lack JHS. As a result, distance commuted to school increases, with many learners dropping out after completing primary school 6, especially in rural Ghana. A cohort survival analysis of EduWatch using the Ministry of Education's EMIS data indicates only 63% of pupils who enrolled in KG in 2011-2012 completed JHS in 2022. Years of civil society engagement with the Ministry of Education on the need to accelerate the construction of JHS in underserved districts has yielded insignificant results. Now, overcrowded classroom, that's the 4th point. The low investment in expanding public basic schools has led to overcrowding in urban and peri-urban schools, driving down quality. In municipalities like Adentan, Wejagbawe, Gan North, Kantamaso, and Gan West, the average primary school class size is more than 60, almost twice the recommended class size by the Ghana Education Service. This has negative effects on the quality of teaching in a new curriculum which requires participatory learner-based teaching approaches. How can a teacher in a class of 124 at Papa Se Roman Catholic Basic School, Amasaman, apply participatory teaching approaches? The 5th point, schools under trees, sheds, and dilapidated structures. There are over 5,400 schools existing under trees, sheds, and dilapidated structures, a situation which negatively affects teaching and learning outcomes. The general learning environment is not only a disincentive to teachers to accept postings, but also demotivates existing teachers while making school attendance unattractive to students. The government in 2021 announced a program to replace all schools under trees, sheds, and dilapidated structures with decent new school buildings by 2025. Till date, only 17 have been completed. Given the current space, it would take Ghana more than 300 years to eradicate the over 5,400 schools under trees, sheds, and dilapidated structures, which is unacceptable. Now, students and teachers without desks and seats. That's the 6th point. The Ministry of Education reports that the proportion of pupils without desks has increased from 30 to 40% between 2017 and 2021. This translates into 2.3 million pupils without desks, with the highest proportion reported in the Northeast region, which constitutes 80%, and Northern region 70%. The issue of teachers without chairs and writing tables is also prominent in many deprived schools. The desk deficit have led to overcrowded classrooms with 3 to 5 pupils on one desk, pupils sitting on stones and improvised tools, and others lying on the floor. All these situations affect their writing skills and learning. Lack of adequate textbooks, which is the 7th point. 4 years after introducing the new primary school curriculum, there are only a few textbooks available for 3 out of 10 subjects. The situation has severely affected effective implementation of the new curriculum, as teachers are unable to facilitate learning without adequate textbooks. Lack of ICT laboratories. About 85% of basic schools lack functioning computer laboratories, a situation that limits the full realization of the objectives of the new curriculum, which has computing as a standalone subject. The 9th point, which is lack of exercise books for needy pupils. Prior to 2015, there existed a free exercise book policy for public basic schools. This afforded children from poor households an opportunity to have exercise books to participate in learning. In 2017, government introduced a free exercise book policy in senior high schools and discontinued that of basic schools. According to the Ministry of Education, providing free exercise books, notebooks, and learning materials have helped improve learning in senior high schools. Basic school teachers, on the other hand, continue to struggle to teach effectively when some pupils do not have exercise books, which is the case in many schools in the 75 deprived districts and urban slums. This lesson on benefits of free exercise books in secondary schools is useful for basic schools as well. Poor financing of basic education. Point 10. The access and quality of deficits espoused above are primarily the results of poor financing of the public basic education over the years. Since 2012, when 27% of the total national budget, the equivalent of 7% of GDP, was spent on education, the financing trend has declined to only 12% budgetary allocation in 2023. The equivalent of only 3% of GDP. This is the face of a growing economy and growing population. The introduction of free senior secondary school education, which has been impacted on access and transition, has taken a significant portion of already declining funding to the education sector. Resultantly, basic education share of the education sector's discretionary expenditure declined from 18% in 2014 to 6% in 2020, and further to 4% in 2023. The declining allocation is worsened by the low budget execution for discretionary expenditure due to poor disbursement of allocated funds, which averaged 55% by September 2022 for the 2023 financial year. Capitation grants, point 11. In 2019, government announced an increment in the capitation grant amount to 10 cedis. Over the years, increasing inflation has reduced the real value from 5 exercise books in 2029 to only 2 exercise books in 2023. Even more disturbing is the untimely disbursement, as the grant remains in arrears for almost 2 years. The poor financing of the basic education has adverse effects on the management and delivery of teaching and learning, accounting for the poor learning outcomes recorded in the public basic school.